In this video, I will make an argument discussing Walt Whitman's poem of Salutation. I will argue that in Poem of Salutation, Walt Whitman is engaged in a state of mesmerism. The poem begins with the only use of Walt Whitman's name within the text, which may be interpreted as the beginning of a trance-like state typical of mesmeric encounters. This use of mesmerism, along with other pseudosciences, showcases Whitman's internalization of the secularization of America in the mid-19th century. We'll start by discussing three popular terms that pertain to the pseudoscience of Whitman's era. Term one is mesmerism, a method of inducing hypnosis referred to commonly, and by Whitman himself, as animal magnetism. Whitman was skeptical of mesmerism in his early writings, but in 1842 appeared to change his tone by stating, "It reveals at once the existence of a whole new world of truth, grand, fearful, profound, relating to that greater mystery, in the shadow of which we live and move." Term two is spiritualism. One aspect included spiritualistic seances, in which the assistance of mediums allowed individuals to communicate with deceased spirits. Term three is phrenology, a theory of character reading that involved interpreting the shape of an individual's skull to determine, among other character traits, their intellectual aptitude. The first crucial piece of evidence supporting this argument is the manuscript of Poem of Many and One, pulled from the Whitman archives for educational purposes. Whitman handwrote an earlier version of Poem of Many and One, dated in 1855/1856. The back of the manuscript contains draft notes for Poem of Salutation, 1856. The differences between the manuscript and published versions of Poem of Many and One indicate a removal of traditionally religious language and a move toward the secular. The differences between the manuscripts and the published versions of Poem of Many and One include the following changes: the removal of the word shall in the manuscript to be changed to can in Poem of Many and One published version, the removal of the word all in the sentence, "Nativity is answer enough to all objections." There is an abundance of evidence specifically found in Poem of Salutation that supports my central argument that Whitman displayed his interest. Pertaining to mesmerism, there are 4 instances within the poem in which Walt Whitman's full name is used within the text. The prompts directed toward Whitman by the speaker bring to mind an exchange typical of mesmerism. In regards to spiritualism, the quote, "that the dead men's spirit, when they wearied of their quiet graves, might rise up through the mounds," indicates that Whitman's understanding of spiritualism allowed immortality to exist as a possibility in his mind, as correspondence after death logically indicated existence after life ends. In regards to phrenology, Whitman states, "Within me latitude widens, longitude lengthens." This indicates that Whitman constructed a mythical persona, based in large part on the results of his own phrenological examination, according to Wrobel's article. Whitman believed, due to this examination, that he was in possession of superior spiritual and intellectual prowess. As for weak points to my central argument, point 1 is that in the 1856 edition of Leaves of Grass, the cover includes a photograph of Whitman in the carpenter pose, intended to present Whitman as a rough or common man. This intentional representation conflicts with the grand mythical persona supposedly shown in Poem of Salutation as influenced by phrenology. My final weak point is that the lines within Poem of Salutation addressing Walt Whitman do not necessarily set the scene for a mesmeric session.